How do people know if they're ready
How do people know if they're ready to buy a home?
in your experience?
So I mean, I have three different things here as far as different pillars, I guess you will, of readiness. So I have you got to be financially ready to buy a home, personally and emotionally ready as well. So
What do you mean by emotionally ready?
I mean, it's just a very stressful process. It's an emotionally draining process. So I feel like if you just have to, I don't know if you necessarily have to be. I mean, I don't think anybody's like ready emotionally, but like I feel like you have to have kind of like have the capacity to deal with some stress and some hard decision making and stuff like that in the home buying process. So I guess it'd be more so of like a setting an expectation that like this is going to be an emotional process, I guess.
Yeah.
But I feel like people just think buying a house is like all sunshine and rainbows, and like it's very far from that.
More than just blowing a confetti cannon in the front yard.
Right. Closing. No, yeah. So yes, I
300K
mean,
worth of debt.
you're right. Yeah, seriously. But yeah, as far as like being ready, financially, obviously stable income, having money for down payment, closing costs, also making sure your credit score is in a decent spot, making sure your debt to income is okay, which all that stuff you would talk with the lender about to actually see where you lie, and then if there needs to be some work to be done, then it's a good opportunity to start working on that. But and then as far as personal, I have it's a long-term commitment. So I always recommend people to be, plan on it being a 5 to 7+ year experience. If you're not ready to sit down and settle somewhere for at least 5 years, then might not be the best time for you to buy a home, and maybe need to wait and get settled down a little bit more. Then also just being ready for lifestyle stability. So again, if you want to hop cities every other year, then it might not be the best idea to buy a house yet.
Right.
Or if your job, if it's always relocating and stuff like that. Then also home ownership responsibilities. So just like this deal that blew up the other day, there are some repair costs that come with owning a home. You got to mow your yard, stuff like that. So
Fucking burp and my eyes started watering.
that's that stanky breath.
It's one of those that feels like you got napalm in your sinuses.
That pepper spray breath.
Yeah.
You got the spicy mo
I
butters.
wonder if you can see it's like I'm just an IV drug user. All right, making me look bad.
I thought you were flexing out. If the camera could see your tricep from this angle.
Tricep.
What is it for you? What do you think? What do you think is criteria for somebody to be ready to buy a house?
I think you had some good points. Emotional readiness, financial readiness. A lot of times, emotional readiness comes before financial readiness. So trying to get all those in sync. Again, it comes back to sitting down with an agent, setting the expectations, and not just sitting on the idea for a year. Think, oh, I'll save up some money, or maybe you're just emotionally getting ready to buy a house, understanding that you have some repair costs and taxes due and all that, but you don't know what you need financially.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. Seems a lot of the times like it's one or the other. Very rarely is it both. But yeah, I think you hit it pretty well there.
I mean, I find this happens all the time. Is like people just casually shop on Zillow, or whatever. Oh, I wonder what's for sale around here. I wonder, I'm thinking about leveling up at some point. I just don't really know when. Let me start looking on Zillow or whatever. And then you see like the perfect house, like you think fits exactly what you need. You're like, oh my gosh, like I want to go buy this house. And then like people reach out to an agent asking to like go look at this house or whatever. And then we talk finances, and like they're not pre-approved. And it just ends up they're actually not ready financially yet, even though emotionally they are ready. They get excited about a house, and then like it's kind of like their dreams get crushed when they find out like they have a little bit of work to do on their credit, or some savings and stuff like that. So
the biggest thing that trips me up when that happens, like they're not pre-approved, they're not ready, or they're not prepared for that financially. They miss out on that. They try to hurry and get everything together, and then it goes under contract. And then they just, oh, okay, well, I guess we're not looking anymore.
Yeah,
and then
dude.
rinse and repeat in 3 months. Oh my gosh, perfect house comes. Oh, it's
Yeah,
gone
dude.
again. Never mind.
Yeah.
Well, if we stepped in and did the right thing in the meantime, that wouldn't have happened. So just learning from the pain and making sure the agent that you're working with advises you and kind of talks you through that. Because I get the thought process, but you have to have somebody to sit back without any emotions involved. Say, hey, if you want to avoid that in the next 2 months,
Yeah.
let's start to do some work on that now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like I have two cases that recently happened to me where this exact same thing happened where like people either send me the listing or, you know, like, hey, this house is going up for sale across the street and like I'm really interested in it. Like let's see if we can make a move on it. I'm like, okay, cool. Have you been pre-approved yet? No, but like I think we're going to be good. So we just like want to try to shoot our shot. And at that point, it's like I had to be like the bearer of bad news and say, hey, like, I mean, I love the enthusiasm here, but like every other active buyer in this market is already pre-approved. So it's literally a waste of everybody's time. Even if you can get pre-approved for that, since you're not already, it's already too late. Like the opportunity for this house specifically that you've fallen in love with on Zillow is already going to be gone because by the time you actually get pre-approved, I mean, lenders are pretty quick. Like they'll get you pre-approved in a day or two, but like you got to get all your documents together and then like
Yeah,
all that kind of
it's
stuff.
chaos.
So like,
It's a little bit
yeah,
of
I mean,
chaos
if it's a nice house, I mean, it's probably going to go under contract the first weekend, and so you know, it's this thing of like we want to make sure you're financially ready. That includes getting a pre-approval before we actually start like actually thinking about going through and looking at homes. So
And then people have always asked me, oh, well, can we write an offer without a pre-approval letter? It's like, well, technically, yes, there's a box on the contract, but if you were selling your home for $450,000 and somebody came to you full price offer, but you don't know if they can actually afford it, it's like, how are you really going to trust that they're serious? Or even you get under contract, you take your home off the market for everybody else to look at and to put offers in on, and then, oh, they can afford maybe a $200,000 house.
right.
It's like that. It wouldn't be wise. I always tell them if I was a listing agent and we got an offer that they were not pre-approved, I would just have my sellers come back and say, yeah, come back with a pre-approval letter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly how I explained it to this guy a few weeks ago. Reached out to me and wanted to go tour this house and write an offer on it if they liked it. And I'd asked if they'd been pre-approved, and he said, not yet, but like think we can get pre-approved. And so I was like, okay, that's great. Like, let's get you pre-approved. Like, we can get you pre-approved tomorrow. And I was talking to this dude at like 9:30 at night. And I was like, if we can gather up all your documents, let's get you pre-approved tomorrow. It's going to be like Thursday at that point. Because this is like a pre-MLS house. He like
nice.
saw it, like, he just saw the sign in the yard or whatever.
Nice.
And so I was like, okay, we can get you pre-approved before the weekend. Like, we can make this happen. But I was like, until you get pre-approved, it's really a waste of our time because if you do like the house and you want to write an offer on it, we might not even get any competition on the house, and your offer still might not get approved just because the sellers aren't really going to know if you can actually afford the house or not.
Yeah.
And even if we get one other offer that we're competing with and they're pre-approved, it's automatically game over. Like, you're not going to win that house.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, really, moral of the story is, even if you don't know if you're financially ready or not, it's always good to talk with the lender first, just because they can give you rough ideas and ballparks without even pulling credit and stuff, just to kind of get at least a rough idea of where you're at. And then if
Yeah.
it seems like something that's feasible, then, maybe take that next step of actually getting a full pre-approval and a credit pull and all that stuff. But yeah.
And finding a lender that also knows some of the other, especially first-time buyers. If they have a lender they want to work with, great. I always recommend shopping around or asking about qualification for certain grants, loan programs, all of that, instead of just cookie cutter VA, FHA, conventional,
Yeah.
USDA.
Yep.
Because I've had 3 clients in the last month get locked in with grant money plus their interest rate at 5.875, and they both had a pretty good amount to put down, but they were able to just qualify for the low income bracket because they made under X amount per year. So just shopping around and really understanding and getting the best bang for your buck.
Yeah, and I think there's some lenders that like stick to more conventional loan, like USD or sorry, FHA, conventional, blah, blah, blah. But then there's also some lenders that have like specialty products and stuff like that that can help with first time home buyers, different grants and stuff too. So, but yeah, you never know till you start talking with people. So, anything else to say about readiness on home buying?
You're probably going to need more than you think. Because a lot of times people think, oh, I want a $200,000 house, 3.5% down. I have to save up 14 grand. And it's, that math's up, right? Yeah. 14 grand. I feel like it's right, but I'm just,
3.5 down on is it 12?
7 grand. Oh, fuck, that makes sense. Okay. Yep. Let's try that again. Yep. We use a calculator for
Yeah.
that.
There's a reason we're selling houses here, people, and we're not teaching math.
Yep. But people don't really realize how much they actually have to save up because they think just 3.5% down, that's all I need to save up. Or, 3% down conventional, whatever. But that's your down payment. There's closing costs like paying insurance up front, title work. What else is there? Title work, deed prep.
I mean, there's all your closing costs, but
taxes. You escrow your taxes, stuff like that. So, oftentimes it's $10,000 more than you really think you need.
yeah, no, actually glad you brought that up because underneath my financial tab, I have like savings, but then in like parentheses, I have your down payment, which is anywhere from 3 to 20% or plus, whatever.
Right.
You got your closing costs. And then I also put emergency fund because I'm sure you've seen this as well, but like you get a first time home buyer that's like literally comes to the closing table with like their last pennies.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, shit, I hope you get paid again before like your first bills
Right.
come out. Or like, I pray to
Seriously.
God that like, we did inspections, all that stuff, but like, I just really hope nothing goes wrong. Cause you were talking about, I put it in personal, there's homeownership responsibilities,
Yeah.
like you never know what's going to happen. So like, if you're literally using your last pennies to close on the house, it's just, you're kind of putting yourself in a little bit of a sketchy situation. I understand everybody's in a different, spot with like leases ending or, different, living situations, but ideally you'd have at least a little bit of money still left in the bank just in case something goes wrong or you get a leak in the sink or, whatever. So
What do you think is a good like rule of thumb?
as far as like your emergency fund goes and
Yeah.
stuff.
Like outside of like a personal emergency fund with just, hey, if crap goes wrong in the house.
So I've seen, it's funny because I just had a closing earlier and I was telling my client about this, but I've seen that experts recommend saving 1 to 2% of the value of your home each year for maintenance costs.
Oh, that's smart.
So if you have a $200,000 house, 2 to 4 grand or so, we got the math right. Yeah.
Calculate that.
And so like I was telling her, when me and Kelsey bought our house 8 years ago now, we bought our house for really cheap, but like, knock on wood, we really haven't had anything go wrong with our house.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't really had anything go wrong. Like we had to replace the electrical box, which was like 15.
That can be pretty pricey.
Yeah, thankfully we had a family friend that is the licensed electrician, all that stuff, so we were able to get it cheaper. But
Nice.
as far as like overall home maintenance costs, we've only had to spend, we spent like $1,500 or something like that for the electrical panel. And then just regular like upkeep stuff, like changing out my air filters and stuff like that. We did do new windows and new flooring, but that was like, we had old windows and we just like we actually pulled some equity out of our house to redo our windows and flooring, but it wasn't like something like we had to do. Like we didn't have like a pipe burst or anything like that. Right. So, we've been super lucky that like we actually haven't had that many home ownership costs. Mm-hmm. But next year, shit could just blow up and, over 10 grand, you got to do stuff. So, it's always good, rule of thumb, to save 1 to 2% of the value of your home for repair costs just in case. Mm-hmm. So,
good. It's
just like your car. Your radiator's probably going to go out at some point. You know what I mean? Like, you just want to make sure, again. And what's scary, dude, is nobody has a ton of people do not have savings. So, like.
Yeah. What's the Ramsey stat? It's like 10% of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings.
I mean, I don't know what
know.
I don't
It's
know what the
10%,
number is, but like,
but it's a very, very small amount. And like now in this economy, $1,000 isn't much.
yeah, dude.
You know, if you need a set of tires, you're cooked. You know.
Dude, I paid my credit card off, and like I had another $1,000 on it within like a few days. I'm like, well, fuck.
Yeah,
You know?
everything hits at once.
Yeah, which I do put everything on my credit card and then try to pay it off every month, so like get like my points or whatever. But yeah, $1,000 when you're an adult in today's economy is like nothing.
It used to be a lot of money, man.
Yeah,
It
dude.
used to
You're like,
be a
all right, I
lot
got a
of money.
grand. Now you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. Oh fuck it, man.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so as far as like my slide goes, so like my first slide is, are you ready to buy a home? So a little bit more of like maybe the negative or like some of the harder things, like, hey, you know, it almost makes it sound like a little difficult. But then I have the benefits of homeownership. So like, okay, like, are you ready? If you are, like, here's some of the benefits, and a lot of people already know this stuff, but I feel like I'll have to put the benefits of home ownership in a home buyer slide.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I think it also touches on the cons, which
Yeah, like, I mean, I want to,
it
like,
sounds really nice when you see all your, especially when you're younger and you see all your friends buying a house. It's like, oh my gosh, that's an awesome idea. And then you start to hear them in some of their fun home ownership costs. You're like,
Yeah.
oh man, maybe it's not such a good idea right now. I need to
Yeah.
stash up a little extra.
Yeah, and I also feel like if we just talk about benefits of home ownership, it sounds kind of fishy and salesy a little bit versus
Yeah.
like, I mean, like I was just having a conversation with a client the other day, and like the last thing I want you to do is to close on a house that you are not comfortable with, or you know that you feel is a money pit. It's like I would much rather you cancel your contract and go back to renting for however long you feel like you need to, versus, you know, push you into this house that you are not gonna, you know, be happy with in the long term.
Does this look weird?
No.
No.
I think you're good.
Cool.
I think you're good. So yeah, so what do you, when you're talking to, or let me rephrase that. What do you feel like people's biggest benefit or reason why they want to buy a home when they're first time home buyers? Like, what's that reason that you feel people come to you to buy a house?
A lot of it is stability for their family. I get that one a lot. I also get, because that's when I ask them all my consultations, because buying a house is a pain in the butt sometimes. And when it is hard, when you miss out on 2 or 3 offers in a row, and then you're like, oh, is this even worth it? Am I meant to get a house?
Right.
Hey, remember your
The
number
emotional
one goal.
part, yeah.
Yeah, your goal was stability for your family. It's not easy to get there.
Right.
But stability, having the freedom to do whatever upgrades you want. If they want to paint a wall, they can do that. But it's also, they start to get a taste of like paying rent. It's like, oh man, well, we've spent 50 grand in rent over the last few years, and we don't have anything to show for it.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's like, well, we would have had some solid equity, especially if we bought 5 years ago. We would have had a lot of equity in a home. So those are probably the 3 or 4 main points that I get. But on the other side, what do you feel like scares people the most about buying a house?
About buying a house?
Yeah.
Probably just the money part of it, like as far as like, or not the money as far as like the monthly cost of like your mortgage and down payment and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
More so money as far as like maintenance and repairs and like, oh, what if I buy this house and it turns out to be this huge money pit that, you know, I'm gonna end up going broke over, or,
Yeah.
you know, stuff like that. So I would say that's probably the biggest fear, especially for not even first time home buyers, really anybody that's buying a house. Like the last thing anybody wants is to buy a house and then turn out it's a money pit with like more problems and headaches than what they originally thought. So,
You know, it's funny. I would say in probably 50% of my buyer consults, when I ask people what their biggest fear of buying a house is, they always say, have you ever seen that movie with Tom Hanks called Money Pit? So I've never seen it, but I've heard about 40 people
Yeah.
tell me that they're
That's
afraid
funny.
of what happens.
I got to check that out too.
Yeah. But apparently they move into this house and just everything goes wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
So usually people have an experience. Oh yeah, my cousin bought a house and it was just it blew up and fell apart in 3 years. It's like, well, how do you think that could have been prevented? Did they do an inspection? No, I don't think they did. Okay. Did they do, like, what else went wrong? Did they inspect it? Did they have a home warranty? Did they have any
Right.
money saved up towards whatever? Because some of that is just deferred maintenance.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the money to fix a freezing pipe, you're not going to have the money to fix the drywall. You're not going to have the money to fix a foundation.
Yeah, it's this downward spiral of
Yeah.
like, holy shit, how do I,
Just
like, what I get myself
expenses.
into?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that's why I really like, that's like in my first slide. It's like financially, you want to be ready because let's just say you got 10 grand saved up and you get this and you buy a $200,000 house and you get the seller to pay for some of the closing costs or whatever. And so like cash to close, you're looking at, 9 or 10 grand or whatever with your down payment and closing costs and all that stuff. If you're moving into that house with no money in your savings account, that's not a very good,
It's scary.
yeah, it's not
Yeah.
a good spot to be in because, I mean, the Lord knows what could happen, so again, that's why I try to, obviously want to try to protect our buyers as much as we can by, doing thorough inspections, following up on any of those results to get further information, like if we need to contact a roofer or a foundation person or an HVAC person, whoever that is, to get a solid quote. So they like, hey, what are we really looking at here as far as the inspection goes? Protecting yourself with home warranties, having a little bit of money in savings if anything were to go wrong. I mean, that's a really good way to protect yourself. And so if I have somebody that's scared of, buying a money pit or something, I try to advise them on getting a home warranty, making sure that you're very comfortable with inspections, ask questions, all that good stuff. And then obviously have some money saved up just in case something were to go wrong. And you usually have a decent idea after inspections. Like if you find out the HVAC or the air conditioner is like 25 years old, you're probably like, okay,
Right.
you might need a budget for a new air conditioner
least
here.
service it-
Yeah,
service it up
exactly. So you get a decent idea, but again, like you can only do so much with inspections within this 2 or 3 hour window that you have. I mean, you're not going to find every single issue with the house. There's some sketchy sellers out there that'll try to cover some stuff up or
Oh, yeah.
whatever. It's like
Have
you
you
do.
had any of those experiences?
Yeah, I have. But you do the best you can, and then again, you're just advising your clients on, we're going to try to help you out with the home warranty. Me and you both like to pay for home warranties for our clients. Again, advising them on having some savings, but I mean, nobody has a crystal ball. Like nobody really knows, and all we can do is like just do the best due diligence that we can just to make sure that they're protected. So
Just that data collection over the last, year and a half, couple years of finding out what people's fears are, but finding out what buyers' fears are, and seeing how things can be prevented as far as, oh, I'm afraid of the sewer, backing up. Okay, let's get a sewer scope.
yeah,
And just the years of data collection has kind of fed into that VIP perks program, whatever we want to call it, to really make an all-encompassing service to make the whole process as seamless as possible.
yeah.
Make sure people are very, very happy with their purchase. Again,
Yeah.
things happen, but trying to mitigate that as much as possible.
Yeah, I think because like I've heard some horror stories of people buying a house and then after, so much time has passed by, they feel like they got screwed by like their agent or like their inspector and they think that they're in cahoots like behind their back, like just to get them to buy the house, like, oh, the inspector should have found this wiring issue or this or that or whatever. And, whether that's true or not, I don't know. I'm sure that happens in the business, but I mean, I don't know any
Isn't that
agents.
illegal?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
definitely illegal.
It's like, I could have been getting kickbacks here.
Yeah, right, exactly. But like, I feel like what we've tried to do with the whole VIP program is like going the whole opposite side of that. Like we're risking our money and our time on the front end of this to make sure that our clients feel comfortable with it. The whole Learn the Market tour, paying for home warranties for people to make sure they feel confident. We both go above and beyond as far as like following up with contractors and whoever we need to like make sure that our clients feel comfortable moving forward with everything.
Yeah, or following up after like major storms, because there was one time, I don't know what it's like. I feel like I need to follow up with people. That was a nasty storm last night, and then a bunch of people had water in their basement. It's like nobody had water in their basement for 20, 30 years, and then all of a sudden, after one gnarly storm we had, there was just water in the basements. So I was able to get them the right resources to get that taken care of and figure out what needed to be done to mitigate that in the future. But again, coming down to an agent that cares and that wants to provide a high level of service and making sure that they're bought in. Because like, we're spending 5, 6, $700 per transaction up front just to have some skin in the game and show them that we're serious. We're serious about making this happen, making you happy.
Yeah.
And then being your agent for life.
It's actually, that reminded me of a story where it was the very first house I closed. It was one of me and Kelsey's buddies, and had a bad storm or something, and they got not a bunch of water, but like they got some water in their basement, and they had just moved all their stuff down there.
Oh, it was finished basement?
Not finished basement, it was unfinished, but they like were putting some stuff down there like for storage and whatnot.
Yeah.
Water gets in the basement. From the inspections, we couldn't really tell if there had been water in the basement, but the sump pump like didn't have batteries or something. It's like the sump pump wasn't working.
Oh.
And so water got in the basement, and he called me at like, I can't remember, it was like late at night. It was like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And he's like, Mike, there's like water in my basement or whatever. And I'm like, oh shit. Like I like got in my car and went over to their house at like 10 o'clock at night to help them like sweep the water out of their basement. And like I brought like my dehumidifier over to like help like clean the air out and stuff or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then actually his girlfriend came downstairs and she's like, why is Michael here or whatever? And I'm like, I'm just trying to help you guys like get the water out of your basement. Yeah. She's like, I'm sorry about the mess or whatever. And I was like, you're good. I'm sorry that there's water in your new house basement. You know what I mean?
They were able to get that figured out.
Yeah, they got the sump pump fixed, and
that was it.
That was it. Yeah, nice. That was it. It's like they haven't. I don't think they've had any water in their basement since, nice. Or that they haven't told me anyways. But yeah, I think just stuff like that. Also, like, I don't know if you call it over and beyond, like, just making sure we're serving our people the best, or just that we care or whatever. But I feel like that sets the bar a little bit higher than like what the average agent does.
Yeah, and coming from other brokerages, like I didn't know any of that. Once I hit the closing table, it was a handshake. All right, best of luck.
Call me if you need another house.
Yeah, I didn't know that people needed help. I just assumed people knew.
Right.
And then coming here to Remax and having that example of a very strong leader and servant mindset, like people really appreciate it, and they feel hopeless or they don't feel like reaching out because they don't want to bother us, but everything is fixed because we have somebody to handle that for $7,000 cheaper than got quotes for at whatever company.
Yeah.
But just again, I feel like we here at Remax, it's the standard is kind of above and beyond serving across
100%.
the board.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I would say one of the biggest benefits that people would come to me, especially as first-time home buyers, is the financial side of things, where, like you said earlier, like people, look at how much money they've spent in rent the past, 2, 3, 4, how many years they've been renting, and like, holy crap, I could have been putting that money towards a mortgage. So usually what happens, like the lease is about to end or something like that. So then they think, man, I'm paying $1,500 a month for rent. Like, what if I just put $1,500 in a mortgage every month, and then it's building equity and all that stuff. So I would say the financial benefits of home ownership are definitely like the number one reason, because I think everybody kind of knows that like real estate is a good investment on the long term. So I feel like a lot of people just don't believe it's possible for them to actually achieve that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, just the fact, if you can get over the hurdle of, your down payment and your closing costs and actually getting into the house, after that, like, it's just time is on your side as far as, market appreciation and paying down your mortgage and all that stuff to build your net worth. So.
And I think people maybe have an unrealistic expectation now, because in the last 4 years, we've seen hyper appreciation.
Right, yeah.
Just based on market conditions and supply and demand. And I don't think it's going to continue on that trend, with 50% appreciation over the course of 3-4 years.
No, yeah, definitely not.
I don't know if that
can't
will continue to happen, but still, it's a long-term play. Historically, home prices have gone up, other than a couple little blips here and there. But it's not always, stay in there for a year, and you're gonna make $50,000.
Yeah, no, that was a very short, like, unicorn years of real estate where like something like that nobody's ever seen before. But even I think I just saw a stat earlier that we're still up 5% appreciation from last year.
Really?
which is more of on the average. So like usually average appreciation is like 3 to 5% a year.
Do you think it's balancing out?
The market, yeah.
Where do you feel like we're at on the spectrum of buyer versus seller market?
So I was actually just looking at these numbers earlier, but so they say if you have under 6 months of inventory, it's technically a seller's market because there's just still not enough inventory for buyers to have like a plethora of options.
Yeah.
And so I just looked earlier for Clay County in Missouri, we're at 2.3 months of inventory,
Oh, really?
I believe.
Nice.
So we're still in a decently strong seller's market, just because there's still just not a ton of options out there as far as listing goes. Listings are up over last year,
Do you know what percent?
like 34% or something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
And we're still.
But we were at like 1 month of inventory.
Huh.
I got to go back and like refresh my memory
Yeah.
on the numbers,
I
but
guess
like
that makes sense.
we were at like, I believe we were at like 1 to 1.3 months of inventory last year, and now we're at like 2.3, something like that. And so like inventory is going up. Like there's more listings coming onto the market than there are being sold. But we were just still in such a deficit that like we're technically still in a seller's market. But I feel like with the election coming up and you know, affordability being so high, you know, inflation being high, the buyer demand is just like pretty low right
Yeah.
now.
I know of a lot of clients of mine that have decided to wait until after November.
Yeah, dude.
I said, "Oh,
They're just trying
you're
to
gonna-
see what's going to
yeah,
happen."
gonna
so.
decide if you're moving to Liberty or Canada. What's your
Yeah,
your plan
right.
there? What's your plan?
Yeah, it's funny too, dude, because I made a whole post about the elections and how it affects home prices and stuff. And I don't know if the algorithm was like just like suppressing my post because I was talking politics or whatever, but like I don't think. I mean, I think you're the only person that liked my post. It's because I was
Really?
talking to you about it on
Yeah,
the phone.
'cause
You're
you
like, let me
told me
go back
that.
and
Yeah.
like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see.
But
Check it out.
so basically, like I'll just kind of like give it a quick summary. But the way I heard the housing market and elections is kind of like you're the only one that liked it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I even like shared it on my story to like try to give me some love or like some extra views, and like nobody like saw it or nobody
That's
cared
crazy.
either way.
I wonder if I want you to try reposting it, but like censor out the word election or president.
Yeah, to do some like A/B testing or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I want you to try that
Yeah,
and just see.
but I'm trying to remember how this analogy went because I was watching this video on it. But it said something like, so basically, I don't know what people exactly think about the housing market with elections, but this like expert was talking about it, and he's like, the elections in the housing market is like, it doesn't slow down or it doesn't like drop the number of sales that happen. There's a fewer number of sales like in November during the elections, but people basically just put their stuff on pause and wait till after everything happens before like resume versus like just missing out altogether. It's like he was doing some kind of analogy between like eating at home versus going out. Like McDonald's, if like someone decides to eat at home, McDonald's misses out on that revenue period because that's a meal that like the people chose to eat at their house versus at McDonald's. Versus like with the housing market and the election and stuff, you don't miss out on that sale. It's a slower period of time, and then it comes back late on the back end. So it's kind of like a slowing down, then more of like an influx after elections happen.
Do you think
Like-
Q4 this year will be crazy?
I don't
'Cause
really.
I've heard some projections that Q4 is going to be like a really busy season.
Really,
Which
why?
is, I don't know if it had to do with the election or if they're still projecting interest rates to trend downward a little bit, but they've been saying that for a while now. Or maybe it's both. Maybe if, whatever the election results are, if the market responds positively and interest rates continue to go down, on top of people already waiting until that time anyway, like, okay, let's wait until
Yeah.
late November or early December and we'll see. Like maybe we will have a little bit of inflated home sales in those months.
Yeah, well, I mean, so on that same that same post with like the graphs and stuff with the elections, I think on average usually interest rates go down right before the election. and I've been seeing a lot of stuff with like economic reports and like the consumer reports and stuff with the feds that they're starting to see that like the economy is starting to take a hit on people, and that I mean that's what the Fed is wanting. Like the Fed, to lower interest rates, we basically need to see more pain in the economy.
Yeah.
Because
People
the thing
just
is
keep
like,
spending money.
yeah, if people keep spending money and then we lower rates, people are just going to go spend more money, and it's like we already have a spending issue. Like
Yeah.
people are, you know what I mean? So, like the Federal Reserve is basically trying to get people to, like they're trying to raise unemployment. They're trying to have people not spend as much money, so it slows the economy down, and they can start stimulating the economy more by then lowering their interest rates. You know, that gets into a ton of like political stuff with like, do the presidents have anything to do with that? You know, blah, blah, whatever. But I don't know, dude. I guess we'll see.
Okay. What do you think are some important questions that a home buyer, especially a first-time buyer, should be asking as they interview around
For lenders or for
let's
agents?
do agent.
For agents.
Yep. And
So
then
I
we'll get to
put,
lender.
so I have 5 different questions that I felt like people should be asking their agents.
I got my own list here.
All right.
Go ahead.
So my top 5 questions that I'm recommending people ask real estate agents whenever they're interviewing is, what is your experience and background in real estate? I put in parentheses that the average agent sells 0 to 4 homes a year.
Yeah.
Because I feel like people, this industry and this job, like it's very unknown to like the general public. And so people just think, oh, real estate agents make like so much money, you know, blah, blah, whatever. Like they're just rolling in deals. But the fact is that they did a study and it's 49% of real estate agents sell 0 to 4 houses a year. And, you know, whatever your price point is, you know, depends how much money you're going to make off each one of those deals or whatever. But the fact is, even at 4 deals a year, you're probably not going to be able to support yourself and your family off of that.
Right.
Which then leads into some of my other questions. So question 2 is, are you a solo agent or do you work for a team? Would I be directly working with you or a team member?
Oh, that's good.
And I put that because, you know, sometimes people feel like if you're working with a team that, you know, you have your initial consultation with me and you think I'm your agent or whatever, but then you're looking at houses with the buyer's agent over here,
Yeah.
and then you're dealing with the transaction coordinator for all the paperwork stuff, and you're like, as the home buyer, you're like, who am I actually working with here? Versus, you know, I just feel like as a solo agent, it delivers a more personable, more invested relationship, I feel like, you know, versus like,
Yeah.
I'm here for you through every step of the process, and I'm fully aware of everything, versus like, I don't know what you and the buyer's agent saw, you know, or what you and the transaction coordinator talked about, or, you know, blah, blah, whatever, versus like me holding your hand through the whole thing. There's like all these like random people that you never really know who you're going to get on the phone.
Yeah.
Um,
And I like that you brought up that point about average agent selling 0 to 4 per year. Because one question that I get asked a lot is how long have you been working as a real estate agent? And you know, I'm coming up at the end of my 2nd year, and I don't know, people kind of scoff at that a little bit. And you know, if they have experience with another agent, I ask what kind of volume, or I look up what kind of volume they're doing. And a lot of them do one transaction
dude,
a
I
year.
know.
It's
Yeah.
like, well, if this person was an agent for 25 years, I've done more deals than
Yeah,
this
exactly.
person.
It's like, okay, do you want the
Yeah.
agent that's been selling houses for 20 years and they've sold 1 house per year, or me that has been doing it for 2 years and I've sold 30 houses, you know, whatever. So
They're
it's like,
repeating their first year 25 times.
yeah, yeah,
That's not valuable at all.
right.
It's not valuable at all.
Yeah, so like, you know, and again, like we've talked about this before, but it's totally fine if you're a new agent. Like, even if you've only done a couple deals or this is your first deal or whatever, part of it is what's the support that you have from your brokerage. You know, because I might not have all the answers, but between the 60 agents we have here, you know, we're going to get something figured out.
Oh yeah.
And it's more about like, how hungry are you? Like, are you going to bullshit some answer, or are you going to say, I don't know, but let me figure that out for you and get right back with you? Do you have the access to actually get that information, or are you just going to be Googling stuff, right?
Yeah, Google will not fare well.
Yeah, but then also, you know, which is a question farther down on my list, but are you full-time or part-time? because I mean, I was a part-time agent, and it's just very difficult to handle a deal that's blowing up and on fire over here when I got my 40-hour a week full-time job.
Yeah.
And then it's like I got people that want to go look at houses, and you know, we know you got to be fast in this stuff. So like I got my full-time responsibility over here. How am I going to give this person over here the full service that they deserve, because it's a lot of money that we're talking about if I have a full-time job over here. So I feel like, you know, I'm not knocking any part-time agents, but it's just very difficult to provide a high level of service as a part-time agent.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree. And again, that's not knocking any part-time agents.
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah, like
means.
I made it work, you know. I'm sure, I mean, tons of people do make it work. It's just I feel like as a consumer, these are good questions to be asking, because that sets your expectations a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, so.
One I like is, can you provide references or testimonials from past clients? So now I actually created a client reference list. So my last, I think it's 8 transactions. Obviously, I made sure they're okay with it, but put in their first name and phone number. So, and I've had clients or potential clients reach out to them and just talk about their experience and make sure that they're comfortable moving forward. I mean, it's just like any other job interview.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you're comfortable and confident moving forward.
Yeah. 100%.
So that's one I actually liked.
What else you got?
How do you stay current with market trends and changes in the real estate industry? So I think that one's really important now with all the NAR lawsuits, and obviously with the market.
Just the changing markets, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of in this weird.
Every month. It's a slightly different market.
Yeah, and it's also very localized as well, because like even if you look at national averages, like California is doing and Florida are doing something totally different than Kansas City.
I heard Texas is dying off hard. Like
really?
Houston area is dying off hard.
Yeah. But so like, you know, even if you're just reading a couple news articles or whatever, like if they're national, you might not be getting the actual picture for like Kansas City area or, you know, whatever area you're in. So, you know, definitely staying up to date on that stuff.
Mm-hmm. But how do you think you stay up with current market trends?
How do I stay up with them? Yeah. So I get a ton of like different newsletters and stuff that come into my email, and I actually just think it's kind of fun to like read that stuff. It's like the different like market reports as far as like what's happening in the economy and stuff like that on that end. So again, that is more of a national deal. But as far as like rates and stuff go, you're looking at a national level. But then as far as like a local like real estate market wise, I just look up all the stuff on, it's like RPR is where I was looking at stuff earlier. So, you know, you type in, you know, Clay County or Platte County or, you know, whatever area you want. You can kind of go through and look at the statistics as far as like, you know, what are average days on market, what's median price points, you know, what's percentage to sale to list ratio, all that type of stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like that's almost skewed a little bit, and I don't know if that's something you've experienced, because the way I get a lot of it is from previews on my own, and then also know the market tours. So I probably do at least one know the market tour a week, looking at 3 to 5 different houses in like different areas.
Yeah.
Maybe up to 3 or 4 on a busy week. But the homes that are priced right, that are just slightly at or below market value, they blow up.
Oh yeah.
They go, like there was one listed at 515. I mean, it was HGTV, beautiful, in Johnson County, listed at 515, sold for 600.
Wow.
And there's some that feel like are maybe priced just slightly high, and they sit on the market for 30 days.
Do you feel
it's
like
a weird dynamic?
Because people hear that and they're like, "Holy shit! Something for 515 went for 600." But I mean, as me and you know, in this industry, listing agents will purposely price a 580 home at 515 to then create a bidding war to then jack it up to 600. Do you feel like that was kind of the case? Like, do you feel like they priced it low to then start the bidding war?
Yes. And one thing, like a testament to the Know the Market tour, like it was a first time home buyer couple. We spent, I mean, they ran the play. It was beautiful. 6 months on getting pre-approved, understanding the market. We did 3 Know the Market tours, a practice offer, came back and reflected, talked about, okay, what do you feel like you learned? Do you feel like your needs or wants or requirements have changed at all? And that's something that we talked through as we went. But there was a house in Hunter's Glen. Okay, soon as we walked in, it was listed at 295. They walked in. They said, "This is like 1,750 square feet. This is a $325,000 house. It's listed at 295, and it's perfect. Like, we love it. We're willing to go up a little bit."
Yeah.
So, well, let me make sure. So I ran the market analysis, and they were right on. They said between 315, 325, and that's exactly what the number showed. And so we went up to 315.5, and it appraised at 318. So that's a testament of really understanding the market, and these people were on it, man. They were killing it. The Know the Market Tour educated them very, very well. They absorbed everything really well, and they even got some equity out of it just because they understood.
I want to, bouncing off of that too, like one of the best ways to stay on top of the market and everything on a local level is to actually be in and out of these houses every single day.
Oh yeah.
You know, like there's no experience, like firsthand experience. Like if you're walking through these houses and you're like, okay, like this one's, you know, if we're rating this thing out of 1 through 10 or, you know, whatever, like this is a solid 10, or, you know, this is a 5, but they have it listed as, you know, as if it were an 8, you know, or whatever. So you really start to learn the different areas and what houses go for in different areas, and especially in what condition, because you also get some sellers that think their house is, you know, an A+ condition, but you've been through enough houses to know it's actually like a C condition, you know, that whole type of deal. But, you know, going back to the average agent sells 0 to 4 houses a year, that, you know, those agents don't have their thumb on the market quite as well as, you know, an agent that's going in and out of houses every single day, closing 2 or 3 a month. You know, like there's just a different level of experience that people are, you know, when you're actually living and breathing it every single day as your full-time job versus the agent that's just part-time and it's just a little fun thing for them to do on the side if their best friend happens to want to buy a house.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's definitely, and that also goes into, that experience goes into your negotiations, the contacts you have as far as contractors and people to like do work for you and stuff as well. So there's just such a massive benefit to working with a full-time agent that actually is doing deals every month versus the part-time agent that doesn't even sell for a year.
Yeah. Plus, there's a bit of desperation. You know, like I've been on the other side of a new agent, and there's not necessarily, like, I don't feel any resistance with negotiation, because when you're negotiating, like, obviously there's going to be some friction. There's going to be some
you're butting heads a little bit.
Yeah, rightfully so. And when you're doing deals, that's kind of comfortable for you. That's just what you know.
Yeah.
You know how to pull it together, and you know what needs to happen, and how to be strategic with the negotiations.
How to word things correctly.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing I get from newer agents, just, okay, yeah, sure, okay, that's fine. Well, I know for sure we had wiggle room on our end.
Right, yeah.
You guys would have came back a little bit. Yeah, we would have bid on that for sure.
Right.
But yeah, they're leaving money on the table when they work with their aunts, dog sitters, friends,
right,
baby brother, whatever.
Yeah, and again, I'm not trying, definitely not trying to knock new agents or part-time agents, like we've been there before too, but as a consumer, these are obviously just things to be thinking about. Mm-hmm. So just for the sound bite, so I'm going to list all 5 of my questions here. So my top 5 questions to ask a real estate agent when you're interviewing them would be, what is your experience and background? And just keeping in mind that the average agent sells 0 to 4 houses a year. Are you a solo agent or do you work with a team? How do you educate and help guide your customers through the process? What is your availability and level of communication? Is this your full-time job? And what do you do that makes you different from other realtors?
That's good. And then I'll go through my questions. Unless you want to say more on yours.
Hit it.
Okay. I don't know why, like, I felt like I lost my voice today.
Yeah.
Just woke up.
You were screaming like a fangirl at Kenny Chesney.
No, dude, I wasn't even awake at Kenny Chesney. Dude, there was a Megan
Stallion.
Marone or something. Marone.
Uncle Cracker.
Uncle Cracker was there.
Yeah, I know.
It was sick. But yeah, whoever opened, one of the openers, And I kept waking up to people taking videos of me.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Damn, you
F you.
fucking lightweight.
Yep. No, I went pretty good. Just a little too quick.
There you go.
Yep.
She told. I hear that all the time. Just a little too quick.
Degrade me. All right, so the top 5 questions that I would say a first-time home buyer should be asking their agent is, 1, how long have you been working as a real estate agent, and how many transactions do you do per year? Can you provide references or testimonials from past buyers, and what sets you apart from other real estate agents in helping buyers find their perfect home? How do you stay current with market trends and new listings that may be out of interest to other buyers, potentially to leverage negotiations? How do you assist buyers in navigating the home search process, including determining priorities, scheduling showings, and making offers? And then how do you handle negotiations on behalf of buyers and ensure they get the best deal possible? And what is your communication style like throughout the home buying process?
I like it.
Good.
I like it a lot.
I watched that yesterday. I had my IV in.
Oh yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I like it a
I
lot.
like it a lot. All right, I think we got over an hour of video there. I'm gonna pause it. I'm gonna cut her off there.